In the vast expanse of space, a great fleet of warships emerged from the darkness, their massive forms casting long shadows across Earth's atmosphere. The ships of the Taltrek's Dominion, an empire feared across the galaxy, were finally here. They had traveled through uncharted space to reach this tiny planet, known to them only by its name, Earth. Their arrival was a threat, one that the people of Earth had never faced before. As the Taltrek ships loomed overhead, their imposing shapes filled the sky. Towering skyscrapers trembled under the weight of their presence. People below stared up in awe, confusion, and fear. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their design was sleek yet aggressive, built to intimidate, with glowing symbols that seemed to pulse with an energy all their own. The Taltreks were not a peaceful species. They were known throughout the galaxy for their ruthless conquest, using their superior technology and military might to crush any world that stood in their way. Now they had set their sights on Earth, and they did not come in peace. On Earth, the leaders of the planet were quickly called to a meeting. Representatives from every country gathered in a large underground bunker, hidden deep beneath the Earth's surface. It was here, far from the prying eyes of the world, that they would discuss the fate of humanity. The President of the United States, along with military leaders, diplomats, and scientists, sat around a large conference table. A quiet tension filled the room as everyone awaited the news from the communications officers. "We've received the transmission," one of the officers said, her voice steady but filled with a hint of fear. "They've demanded to speak with us. They want us to show them our strength." The room fell silent. "Strength," muttered the president, his hands tightly gripping the sides of his chair. What could they mean by that? Another officer quickly replied, "It's clear they want to test us, see what we're capable of. And if we fail, they will destroy us." The military general stood up, his voice loud and commanding. "We cannot let them think we are weak. We must show them we are not to be underestimated. They may have superior technology, but we have something they don't: our willpower, our adaptability. We can't let them see us as an easy target." The president nodded. "What's our plan? What do we know about them?" "Not much," the general admitted. "The Taltreks are known for their merciless invasions. They've wiped out entire civilizations in a matter of weeks. Their weapons are far more advanced than anything we have, and their soldiers are genetically enhanced. They believe in strength above all else. If they think we're weak, they will destroy us without a second thought." Another leader, the head of the European Union, spoke up. "Then we must show them we are not like the others. We have to find a way to make them see that humanity is more than just another prey for their empire." The president thought for a moment, then turned to his advisors. "What do you suggest?" After a long pause, one of the diplomats, a quiet woman with years of experience in negotiations, spoke. "We need to present them with a challenge of our own. Instead of showing them our weapons or technology, we need to show them what makes humanity unique: our creativity, our problem-solving, our ability to endure." The general shook his head. "But they'll expect us to fight them. They'll think we're weak if we don't." The diplomat nodded. "That's exactly what they expect. But that's our advantage. They will underestimate us. We have to make them realize that strength isn't just about weapons. It's about how we think, how we adapt, how we survive." The president stared at the screen, where the Taltrek's fleet was still visible, their ships dark and menacing against the blue sky. "What do we have to lose?" he asked. "If we fight them the way they want us to, we'll only lose. But if we show them something they don't expect, something they can't predict, we might have a chance." The room was quiet for a moment, as everyone considered the president's words. Finally, the general spoke again. "What kind of challenge are you suggesting?" The diplomat stood up. "We offer them a test of humanity's strength, a trial where we show them what we're capable of in ways they cannot possibly anticipate. If we succeed, they will have no choice but to respect us. And if they don't, then we go down fighting. But at least we'll have shown them that we won't be crushed easily." The president nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. "Then it's settled. We'll present our challenge to them. We won't play by their rules. We'll show them that humanity's strength is not in our weapons, but in our hearts and minds." With that decision made, the leaders of Earth began preparing for the challenge ahead. They knew it wouldn't be easy, and the odds were stacked against them, but they had no choice but to take the risk. They had to prove to the Taltrecs that humanity's strength could not be measured in the number of ships or the power of weapons. As the Taltrecs watched from their warships in orbit, they waited for humanity's response. They had no idea what was coming, but soon they would find out just how strong Earth's people could truly be. The day after the Taltrecs fleet had arrived in Earth's orbit, the people of Earth waited with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The leaders had decided to issue their challenge, and now they had no choice but to face the consequences. It was time to see if humanity could prove its strength. In a small, secure conference room deep underground, Earth's top officials gathered to finalize their plan. The president, military leaders, diplomats, and scientists all sat in silence, waiting for the first step to be taken. They had spent hours discussing what kind of challenge could possibly convince the Taltrecs to respect humanity's strength without resorting to violence. The plan was clear. Humanity would show the Taltrecs what they were truly capable of, not through weapons or technology, but through resourcefulness, intelligence, and resilience. The challenge would test the very core of human strength, the ability to adapt and survive in ways the Taltrecs had never considered. The diplomat, who had first suggested the idea, stood up and addressed the group. "We will offer them a series of trials," she said, her voice steady but firm. "Each trial will showcase a different aspect of what makes humanity unique. We will not fight them with brute force, but with our creativity and determination." "Are you sure this will work?" the general asked, his arms crossed. "We're going up against an empire that has crushed entire civilizations. If we don't show them we're a threat, they'll never take us seriously." "We don't need to show them that we can defeat them in battle," the diplomat replied. "We need to show them that we are not easily broken, that we are capable of doing things they cannot even imagine." The president, who had been silent up until now, looked up at the group. "If we can prove that, if we can show them what humanity is capable of, we just might have a chance. But we have to be careful. If we fail, it could mean the end of everything." "We know the risks," the scientist spoke up, "but we also know that if we try to fight them with force, we won't stand a chance. Our only hope is to play to our strengths." The group agreed. The diplomat turned to the large screen in the room, where a communication line to the Taltrecs fleet had been established. The time had come to make their offer. The president spoke into the microphone. "This is President Joshua Carter of Earth. We have heard your demands, and we understand that you wish to see our strength. We offer you a challenge. We will prove to you that humanity's true strength is not in the weapons we wield, but in our minds, our hearts, and our ability to adapt." There was a long pause as the Taltrecs responded. Finally, their voice crackled through the speaker. "You will show us your strength." The tone was cold, uninterested. "We shall accept. But be warned, Earthlings, we will not tolerate failure." The president felt a cold chill run down his spine. "We accept your terms," he said, trying to sound confident. The Taltrec's voice responded. "We will set the terms of the trials. You will face them alone. If you succeed, we may spare your world. Fail, and you will be destroyed." The call ended abruptly. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone knew the risks, but there was no turning back now. Earth's future depended on this challenge. The first trial was to take place in a remote, hostile environment on a planet in a distant part of the galaxy. The Taltrecs had selected it because it was known to be uninhabitable. The planet had toxic gases in its atmosphere, violent storms, and deadly wildlife. The humans who would face the trial would be dropped onto the surface with only basic survival gear, and they would have to survive for 3 days. If they succeeded, It would prove their endurance and ability to adapt. A group of volunteers was quickly assembled. Military personnel, scientists, engineers, and civilians who had experience in extreme conditions. Among them was Sarah Davis, a former Marine who had survived the harshest environments on Earth, and Dr. John Turner, an expert in survival tactics. Together, they would lead the group. As they prepared for the mission, Sarah looked at the team. "We've been given a chance," she said, her voice calm but determined. "This isn't just about surviving. This is about showing the Taltrecs that we can endure, no matter what they throw at us. We won't back down." Dr. Turner nodded. "We're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting for humanity's future." The team boarded the spacecraft that would take them to the test planet. As the ship ascended into space, Sarah looked out the window at the Earth below. It seemed so peaceful from up here, but she knew that peace was fragile. It was up to them to prove that humanity could survive, no matter how impossible the odds. When they reached the planet, they were dropped into the atmosphere, the ship quickly disappearing from sight. They plummeted through thick clouds until the ground came into view. The surface was barren and desolate, a dry wasteland. Toxic clouds swirled around them, and the air was thick with a pungent, choking smell. The sky was filled with dark, swirling storm clouds, and violent winds howled in the distance. The group quickly set up camp in the area, using their survival gear to create makeshift shelters. Sarah led the team as they searched for clean water, knowing that their supplies wouldn't last long. Dr. Turner worked with the engineers to set up a system to filter the toxic atmosphere and make it breathable. As the first day passed, the Taltrecs watched from their ships in orbit, their sensors observing every move the humans made. They were confident that the humans would fail. They had never seen a species endure the conditions of the planet for long. But as the days went on, they began to notice something strange. The humans were not just surviving. They were thriving. They used their limited resources to create systems for food, water, and shelter. They adapted to the hostile environment with surprising ease. By the end of the second day, they had already built a functional filtration system and even captured some of the dangerous creatures on the planet for food. The Taltrecs couldn't believe what they were seeing. As the third day dawned, the humans had proven something the Taltrecs never expected. They had shown not only that they could survive in the harshest conditions, but also that they could do it with ingenuity and resilience. The Taltrecs were starting to realize that humanity was not like the other civilizations they had conquered. This was not a species that could be easily wiped out. The challenge was only beginning. What would the Taltrecs think of humanity's strength now? The humans had survived the first trial, proving their ability to adapt and endure in the harshest of environments. The Taltrecs, who had watched the humans with growing curiosity, were now forced to reconsider their initial assumptions. This was not a species that could be dismissed so easily. But the trials were far from over, and the Taltrecs had a much more difficult challenge in mind. After the humans returned to Earth, battered but triumphant, the Taltrecs transmitted their next demand. "You have shown your ability to survive. Now we will test your strength in combat. We have chosen your best warriors to face our soldiers. Prove that you can defeat us in battle, and we may reconsider your fate." The president gathered with the military leaders once again. Tension was high, but they all knew this moment was inevitable. The Taltrecs had no interest in peace or diplomacy. They wanted to see strength. This time, it wasn't about survival, it was about combat. "We've been preparing for something like this," General Andrews said, his voice grim. "But let's not fool ourselves. The Taltrecs are far more advanced in terms of technology and soldiers. Their warriors are genetically enhanced. Their weapons are far more powerful than ours. We can't win in a direct confrontation." The president nodded. "Then we need to think differently. We've shown them our ability to survive. Now we must show them that our strength is not just in brute force. Our strength is in our strategy, our teamwork, and our ability to outsmart them." The plan was set. Instead of sending a group of elite soldiers to fight the Taltrecs head-on, the humans would use guerrilla tactics. They would rely on their knowledge of terrain, surprise, and their superior ability to think on their feet. The Taltrecs might be bigger, stronger, and better armed, but humanity had something they did not: creativity. Sarah Davis, who had led the group on the survival mission, was chosen to lead the team of soldiers, engineers, and strategists. Dr. John Turner, the survival expert, was also called in to assist. Together, they would have to come up with a plan that would turn the tables on the Taltrecs. The humans were dropped onto a battlefield that was much like Earth's wilderness, a dense forest with natural traps, hidden paths, and high ground that could be used to their advantage. The Taltrec soldiers were not familiar with this kind of terrain. They were used to wide open spaces where their strength and firepower could dominate. But in the forest, everything changed. Sarah and her team moved quickly. They set up traps, nets hidden under leaves, branches rigged to fall with a snap, and even makeshift camouflage to hide their positions. The Taltrecs would soon discover that the battlefield was not what it seemed. It was a maze designed to confuse, trick, and wear them down. The first wave of Taltrec soldiers came charging through the forest, their glowing weapons lighting up the darkened trees. They expected to find easy prey, but they walked straight into the human's trap. As the first soldier took a step, a net flew up, catching him in midair. He struggled, but before he could break free, another soldier was caught in a similar trap. The Taltrecs were momentarily disoriented. This was not how a battle was supposed to go. They had expected to crush their enemies quickly, but now they were faced with humans who knew how to fight in ways they didn't understand. Sarah signaled to her team, and they moved silently through the trees. Each time the Taltrec soldiers thought they had found the humans, they were already gone, hidden in the shadows, waiting to strike again. The Taltrecs were beginning to panic. The humans were outwitting them at every turn. One by one, the Taltrec soldiers were picked off, caught in traps or forced into ambushes. The humans didn't rely on brute strength. They used their environment, their brains, and their ability to work together. It wasn't a fair fight. It was a fight on the humans' terms. Dr. Turner, who was stationed with the engineers, worked quickly to disable the Taltrecs' advanced weaponry. Using basic tools and knowledge of their systems, he hacked into their communication lines, sending false signals that led the Taltrec soldiers into dead ends or into even more traps. The Taltrecs, who had relied on their technology for so long, were now at a disadvantage. After hours of relentless movement, the Taltrecs were finally cornered. They had underestimated the humans' ability to fight smart. No longer could they depend on their size or superior weaponry. They had been outmaneuvered, outfought, and outlasted. The Taltrecs commander, who had been overseeing the battle from orbit, watched in disbelief as his forces were decimated. His soldiers, who had once seemed invincible, were now retreating. In the span of a few hours, the humans had turned the battlefield into their own domain, using only their wits and teamwork to achieve victory. Back at the human camp, Sarah and her team watched as the Taltrecs forces finally pulled back, their commanders signaling for a retreat. There was no celebration, no shouting or cheering. They had won, but there was still more to prove. They had shown the Taltrecs that their strength was not in the weapons they wielded, but in their minds and their unity. As they prepared to leave the battlefield, Sarah looked up at the sky, where the Taltrecs fleet still hovered above. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "They think they know us now, but we still have a lot to show them." The Taltrecs had come to Earth expecting to find a weak, defenseless species. Instead, they had discovered something much more dangerous, a species that could not only survive but could think, adapt, and fight in ways they could never imagine. The humans had already shown their strength in survival and combat, but the Taltrecs were not finished with them. They wanted to test every aspect of humanity's abilities, and their final challenge was the most difficult yet. This time, the Taltrecs chose to test humanity's ingenuity and creativity in a way that no one could have anticipated. The Taltrecs commander issued their next demand. You have passed the trials of endurance and battle, but there is one final test you must face. We will test your intelligence. We have designed a complex puzzle that no species has ever solved. If you can solve it, we will respect your strength. Fail, and your world will be destroyed. The humans were given no details about the puzzle, only a series of cryptic messages and coordinates that led them to an isolated island on Earth. The island was surrounded by dangerous waters, and the only way to reach it was through a series of challenges that tested every skill the humans had developed over the past trials. Sarah Davis, who had become the symbol of humanity's resilience, was chosen to lead the team one last time. Alongside her were Dr. John Turner, the survival expert, and a few engineers and scientists who had contributed to the previous trials. Together, they had to solve the puzzle, whatever it was, before the Taltrex could carry out their threat. The journey to the island was long and perilous. The team navigated through dangerous waters, facing strong currents and rough seas. But Sarah and her team were no strangers to challenges. They worked together, using their knowledge of the environment to overcome every obstacle in their path. When they finally arrived at the island, they were met with an eerie silence. The air was thick with tension as the group set foot on the land. The island was unlike anything they had seen before. Its landscape was strange, filled with towering stone structures and intricate patterns carved into the ground. It looked like something out of an ancient mystery, as if the island itself was a giant puzzle waiting to be solved. The team gathered around a large stone tablet in the center of the island. It was covered in strange symbols, and beneath it was an inscription that seemed to glow with an unnatural light. Sarah stepped forward, studying the symbols closely. "This is the puzzle," she said quietly. "But what does it mean?" Dr. Turner ran his fingers over the symbols, deep in thought. "These aren't just random markings. They seem to follow a pattern, almost like a code." The engineers and scientists began to work together, pulling out tools and devices to help analyze the stone. They used advanced technology to scan the surface and translate the symbols, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't make sense of it. The puzzle was like nothing they had ever encountered. Frustration began to set in. Time was running out. The Taltrex had given them a limited window to solve the puzzle. If they failed, Earth would be destroyed, and everything they had fought for would be in vain. The pressure weighed heavily on the team, but Sarah refused to give up. "We've faced impossible odds before," she said, looking at her team. "We can't let this defeat us. Think about what we've learned. We've survived the harshest environments. We've outsmarted the Taltrex in battle, and now we need to use everything we know to solve this." The team began to think back to everything they had encountered so far. They remembered the patterns in the landscape, the strange carvings they had seen, and the clues the Taltrex had left for them. Slowly, a realization began to form in their minds. "It's not just a puzzle," Dr. Turner said, his voice filled with excitement. "It's a test of our creativity. The Taltrex want to see how we think, how we can solve a problem without just brute force." The engineers quickly got to work, using their knowledge of construction and design to interpret the puzzle. As they worked, the team began to notice something. The symbols on the stone weren't just random. They were part of a much larger mechanism. It was as though the island itself was the key to the puzzle. After hours of trial and error, the team finally figured it out. The stone tablet was connected to a series of hidden levers and switches buried beneath the ground. When they activated the correct sequence, the stone shifted, revealing a hidden chamber beneath the island. Inside the chamber was a complex array of machines and devices, all connected in a way that defied logic. It was clear that the Taltrex had designed the puzzle to test not just physical strength or intelligence, but the ability to think outside the box, to approach problems from different angles. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to solve the final piece of the puzzle. They used every tool at their disposal, applying everything they had learned from the previous trials. After what felt like an eternity, they finally succeeded. With a loud click, the entire structure shifted. the puzzle was solved. The Taltrix commander, watching from orbit, was silent for a long time. The humans had done what no one else had ever managed to do. They had solved the puzzle, proving that they were not just strong, but capable of thinking in ways the Taltrix could not have imagined. Finally, the Taltrix commander's voice crackled through the communication channel. "You have done the impossible. You have passed our final test. We underestimated you, Earthlings. We came to destroy you, but instead, you have earned our respect." The Taltrix fleet, which had hovered above Earth for days, began to withdraw. They had come to test humanity, but instead, they had found a species capable of far more than they had ever imagined. The humans had shown that their true strength was not in their technology, their weapons, or even their survival skills. It was in their minds, their creativity, and their ability to rise above every challenge. As the Taltrix ships disappeared into the vastness of space, Sarah and her team stood together on the island, looking out at the horizon. They had saved their world. They had proven humanity's strength, not with violence, but with intelligence, resilience, and unity. It wasn't just a victory for them. It was a victory for all of humanity. And they knew this was only the beginning. The Taltrix had learned a powerful lesson, but humanity had learned something too. The true strength of a species is found in the heart of its people. With the Taltrix fleet retreating from Earth's orbit, the humans stood victorious. But the feeling of relief was mixed with a deep sense of uncertainty. For days, they had faced tests that challenged their survival, their intelligence, and their courage. And now, they had earned the Taltrix's respect. But what would happen next? Back on Earth, the world was forever changed. News of humanity's victory spread across the globe, and people celebrated the unprecedented triumph. The president addressed the public, speaking of hope, unity, and the incredible strength of the human spirit. But even as Earth's leaders took steps to rebuild, they knew that the victory was not the end of the story. The Taltrix had only left for now. But what if they returned? What if other alien forces were out there, watching, waiting for their own turn to test humanity? "We've proven ourselves," President Joshua Carter said in his speech. "But we must remain vigilant. The Taltrix came here to test us, and we showed them what we're capable of. Now we must be ready for whatever comes next." Sarah Davis, Dr. John Turner, and the rest of the team who had led humanity through the trials were hailed as heroes. But Sarah, ever humble, didn't feel like a hero. She was grateful for the victory, but she knew that the real work had only just begun. "There's still so much we don't know," Sarah said one evening as she sat with Dr. Turner, watching the stars. The two of them had spent countless hours together during the trials, strategizing, learning, and fighting for the future of humanity. "We've beaten the Taltrix, but they're not the only threat out there. We've seen how fragile peace can be." Dr. Turner nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "The universe is vast. We've made enemies, but we've also made allies. And we've shown the rest of the galaxy what Earth is capable of. We have the knowledge now. We have the strength. We just need to figure out how to use it." The world had united like never before. Governments, once divided by borders, now worked together, sharing technology, knowledge, and resources. Nations that had been rivals only a few months ago were now collaborating to prepare for any future threats. Humanity was stronger than ever, not because of their weapons, but because of their unity. But there was another matter that weighed heavily on Sarah's mind. The Taltrix had left, but they had also promised to return. The challenge was over, but what would the future hold? Would they come back, or would other alien races decide to test humanity in their own way? For the first time in history, Earth was not just a planet. Earth was a symbol of resilience, of intelligence, and of a species that could rise to meet any challenge. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, but now the question was whether they could hold it. Sarah was standing on the roof of a government building late one evening, gazing up at the stars. The city lights below her flickered like fireflies, and the sounds of distant celebrations filled the air. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, something waiting in the darkness. A soft voice behind her broke the silence. "You're thinking about the future, aren't you?" Sarah turned to see Dr. Turner, who had quietly joined her on the rooftop. "It's hard not to. We've made an impact, but we've also made enemies. We've earned their respect, but what if they decide to come back with a vengeance?" Dr. Turner smiled faintly, his eyes thoughtful. "Then we'll be ready. We're not the same species we were before the Taltrex came. We've learned. We've adapted. We've shown that we can survive, that we can thrive, no matter what. The future is uncertain, but it's ours to shape." Sarah glanced at him, appreciating his words. "You're right. We've proven we can handle whatever comes our way. But I wonder if there are more tests ahead, more challenges. How do we prepare for what we don't even know is coming?" Dr. Turner stood beside her, gazing at the stars. "I think that's the real strength of humanity. We don't have all the answers. We don't know what's out there, but we have the ability to figure it out, to adapt, and to learn as we go. That's what makes us different." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars above them. Earth had won, but the universe was still full of unknowns. As the lights of the city sparkled below, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if humanity was truly prepared for what came next. The following weeks saw humanity beginning the next phase of its journey. Earth's scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, building new technologies and strengthening defenses. Nations began forming intergalactic councils, seeking to establish relationships with the other species that inhabited the galaxy. Humans were no longer a small, insignificant planet in a corner of the universe. They were now a force to be reckoned with. But not all was peaceful. While some alien civilizations were curious about Earth and its people, others viewed humanity's rise as a potential threat. The Taltrex, despite their retreat, were not gone for good. Rumors began to circulate that other powerful races were observing Earth's progress with concern. The challenge the humans had faced was just the beginning. In the shadows of space, alliances were being formed, and some races sought to test Earth's strength in ways that were yet unknown. Sarah and her team were asked to stay involved in the Earth's defense strategies. They had become leaders, not just in the eyes of Earth's people, but in the eyes of the galaxy. Their experience, intelligence, and resourcefulness had proven that they were ready for anything. "Prepare for the future," Sarah said to Dr. Turner as they watched humanity's efforts unfold. "The Taltrex were just the beginning. There will be others, and we'll be ready." The final words of the Taltrex commander echoed in her mind. "We underestimated you, Earthlings." And Sarah smiled, knowing that humanity had earned its place in the stars. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and together they would rise again. As the days passed, Earth slowly returned to a sense of normalcy, but there was a constant undercurrent of unease. Humanity had defeated the Taltrex, and yet there was a lingering sense that this victory was not the end of the story. Instead, it was the beginning of something much larger. The universe was vast, and the Taltrex were only one of many species with their own agendas. Across Earth, leaders and scientists worked tirelessly to prepare for what might come next. The once separated nations now worked as one, pooling resources to strengthen their defenses, share knowledge, and build technologies to protect Earth from whatever challenges lay ahead. Humanity had proven it could survive and even triumph against powerful foes. But now, the question was, could they protect what they had built? In the months following their victory, Sarah Davis, Dr. John Turner, and their team were asked to take on new roles. They had become symbols of humanity's strength and resilience, and their expertise was needed in the preparation for the future. But despite their newfound fame and influence, Sarah knew that their work was far from over. As Earth's new space programs advanced, there were talks of forming alliances with other civilizations. There were whispers of new species, both friendly and hostile, who had taken an interest in humanity's rise. The Taltrex had not been the only ones watching Earth's progress. In the dark corners of the galaxy, New powers were emerging, and humanity would need to be prepared for whatever came next. The day finally came when Sarah and her team were called to a meeting with the leaders of the newly formed United Earth Council. The council, made up of representatives from all the nations of the world, had gathered to discuss the next steps in Earth's path forward. They were eager to learn from Sarah and her team, hoping their insights would help prepare humanity for the future. "We need your help," the president said, his face grave. "The Taltreks were only one challenge. We know there are others out there. More powerful civilizations. We need to know how to protect ourselves from them. How do we prepare for what we don't even know is coming?" Sarah stood before the council, her mind racing with thoughts of the future. She had never imagined she would be in this position. A few months ago, she had been leading a small group through the Taltrek's trials, unsure of what would happen next. Now she was helping to shape Earth's future, a future that was uncertain, yet filled with potential. "We have learned a lot over the past few months," Sarah said, looking at the council members. "We've proven that we can survive and adapt. We've shown that we are stronger than we look. But we've also learned that knowledge and preparation are key. We have to be ready for anything. And we have to be united. The universe is vast, and there are many unknowns out there." Dr. Turner, who had been working on Earth's defense strategies, spoke up. "We've made great strides in developing new technologies, and we've learned a lot about the Taltreks and their methods. We've also been in contact with a few alien civilizations who want to cooperate with us. But there's still a lot we don't know." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Despite their united efforts, they knew that Earth's future was not guaranteed. The Taltreks had shown that even the strongest species could be vulnerable, and the universe was filled with dangers they could not yet understand. "We need to prepare for the possibility of more trials," Sarah continued. "We can't rely on brute force or technology alone. Our strength lies in our ability to adapt, to think outside the box. We've done it before, and we can do it again." The president nodded, acknowledging the wisdom in Sarah's words. "So, what's next?" he asked. "What do we do now?" Sarah thought for a moment. "We continue to learn. We continue to build relationships with other civilizations, and we continue to prepare. The universe is changing, and we have to be ready for anything that comes our way." The council agreed, and plans were set in motion to expand Earth's space programs, form diplomatic ties with other species, and continue the research that would keep humanity safe in the uncertain future. But even as they worked, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was looming, something that they weren't yet prepared for. As she left the council meeting, she found herself staring up at the stars once again. The vastness of space was both exhilarating and terrifying. Earth had come so far, but what if the next challenge was beyond anything they had faced before? Dr. Turner joined her, sensing her unease. "You're still thinking about the future, aren't you?" he asked. Sarah nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars. "We've proven ourselves, but there's so much we don't know. There's so much out there we can't even begin to understand." "We'll figure it out," Dr. Turner said, his voice calm. "We always do. The Taltreks thought they could test us and break us. They were wrong. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Sarah smiled at him, grateful for his steady presence. "Together," she repeated. "That's the key. No matter what happens, we face it as one." As the team continued their work, Earth began to strengthen its defenses, expand its knowledge, and prepare for whatever the future might hold. But even as they made great strides, Sarah knew that the universe was still full of mysteries. The Taltreks had left, but their presence had left an indelible mark on Earth's history, and in the shadows, something else was watching, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Sarah's resolve hardened. Humanity had proven it could survive against the odds. Now, it was time to prove that they could thrive, not just as individuals, but as a species. The galaxy was full of challenges, but humanity was ready to face them, together. Months passed since Earth's victory over the Taltreks. Humanity had united in a way never seen before. The planet had become stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to face whatever the future held. Sarah Davis, Dr. John Turner, and their team had become symbols of hope, leading Earth's efforts to build alliances, expand its knowledge, and prepare for the unknown challenges that lay ahead. But Sarah could feel the tension in the air. The work wasn't over. The universe was still vast, and though they had proven their strength, there was so much more to learn. The Taltreks had left, but their departure had been shrouded in mystery. They had promised to return, and while humanity had shown its power, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, something far more dangerous than they had faced before. One crisp morning, Sarah found herself standing on the edge of a balcony overlooking the bustling city below. The sun had just risen, casting a golden light over the skyline. She was joined by Dr. Turner, who had become her closest ally throughout the trials. They had faced so much together, survived battles, solved puzzles, and built a future for Earth that now seemed full of endless possibilities. "Do you think we're ready for what's out there?" Sarah asked, her voice quiet as she gazed at the horizon. Dr. Turner stood beside her, watching the city come to life. "We've learned a lot," he replied, his tone thoughtful, "and we're stronger than we've ever been. But there's always more to learn. The universe is vast, Sarah. We don't know what we'll encounter. But I believe in humanity." Sarah smiled at him, feeling a surge of pride in her chest. The team had fought together, and now they were leading humanity into the future. Earth's space programs were advancing quickly, and the world had begun to forge relationships with other peaceful civilizations. But there were still whispers in the galaxy, rumors of races watching Earth's rise with interest. Some were friendly, but others, no one could be sure. "I believe in humanity too," Sarah said, her voice firm with determination. "But sometimes I wonder if we're truly ready for what's coming. We've faced so much, and yet there's still so much more we don't understand." Just then, a sudden flash of light appeared in the sky. It was so bright that it momentarily blinded them. Both Sarah and Dr. Turner squinted, trying to make sense of what was happening. The light was followed by a low hum, almost like a vibration in the air. "What is that?" Dr. Turner asked, his voice tense. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "But it's not like anything we've seen before." The flash of light grew larger, and Sarah's instincts told her something was approaching, something far beyond Earth's understanding. She and Dr. Turner rushed to the nearest communication station, trying to make contact with Earth's defense systems. "We need to alert the Council," Sarah said urgently. "This could be the beginning of something big." As they spoke, the hum in the air intensified, and suddenly, a massive ship appeared in the sky. It was unlike any ship Earth had ever seen. Its shape was sleek and smooth, glowing with an eerie light. It was enormous, dwarfing even the largest of Earth's space stations. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a message came through. "This is Commander Zaneri of the Atheran Fleet," the voice echoed across the communication channel. "We come in peace. We have watched your species grow. You have shown strength, intelligence, and adaptability. It is time for us to test your resolve." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the moment she had feared. Another test, but this time it was not the Taltreks. This was something new, something she didn't understand. "We accept your challenge," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We will prove that humanity is ready for whatever comes next." The Atheran ship slowly descended, landing in a large open area just outside the city. As it touched down, the ground trembled slightly, but the ship itself was silent and still. A ramp lowered, and a group of beings stepped out. They were tall, their bodies covered in shimmering silver armor, their faces hidden behind masks. Their movements were precise, coordinated, as though they had trained for this moment for centuries. Despite the intimidation they exuded, there was no hostility in their demeanor. They weren't here to fight, at least, not yet. "We are the Atherin." The leader of the group spoke, his voice calm but commanding. "Your species has shown great promise. You have passed the trials of the Taltrex, but that was only the beginning. Now we will see if you are worthy to join the greater community of civilizations." Sarah stepped forward, her heart racing, but her mind clear. "We accept your challenge. We will prove humanity's strength." The Atherin leader inclined his head slightly, acknowledging her words. "You have chosen wisely, Earthlings. But know this, the test will not be easy. We will test not just your strength, but your wisdom, your ability to adapt, and your resolve. If you succeed, you will be part of something greater than you can imagine. But if you fail—" He paused, letting the weight of his words hang in the air. Sarah stood tall, her voice unwavering. "We will not fail." And with that, the challenge began. Humanity's true test had not ended with the Taltrex. It had only just begun. The Atherin were not here to destroy. They were here to see if Earth could rise to the next level, if humanity could truly prove its place in the cosmos. As the first challenge was revealed, Sarah and her team readied themselves. They had faced the impossible before, and they would do it again. Together, humanity would face this new trial with the same strength, intelligence, and unity that had carried them through so much. And whatever came next, they would rise, as they always had.